Hello, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. Just in your chat rooms, just give me a yes, yes, yes if you can hear me at all at this time. Can you guys hear me? All right, I'm seeing the comments. Good, good. Okay, cool. So welcome everyone to Bread Talk. I'm really happy that all of you are joining. This is a nice online webinar we're doing, or online lecture. We will have a section for question and answer right after, and the question and answer time is not going to be just a time to ask questions about the lecture you just heard. It can also be about many other things that you guys are thinking about in life also. I've been doing this for about 17 years now, and I've been traveling to about 23 countries. So I really hope that I'll be able to help a lot of you guys with the different life questions that you have. But today, our question that we're trying to figure out is the resistance of change, right? And change is a very difficult thing, and it's something that we all want to do. Now, the first thing I need to tell you is the necessity of change. Okay, necessity of change is something very, very important. Because let me ask you a question. So why is change necessary and why is it inevitable? Okay, so when you think about this, as you grow up with time, as you're growing, as you're maturing, you have to change. Like, change is something that is absolutely necessary, and if you don't change, life actually becomes more uncomfortable, and it becomes something that's kind of you get a lot of suffering and it's unbearable. So I'll give you an example here, right? Because if I give you this example, you'll understand. Now, I'm not sure how old you guys are, but I'm figuring that the general age that we're looking at is usually university and in their 20s. That's kind of the general age. For myself, you know, I'm past my 40s. Okay, so think about this very carefully. I'm in my 40s, and let's say I still wear diapers, and I dress like a baby, no shirt, with a big bonnet, and I'm sucking on my thumb all day, and I'm like past 40 years old. Now, when you look at someone who's past 40, sucking their thumb like a baby, right, crying all the time, wearing diapers all the time, and I'm walking around the streets just in my diapers with a bonnet and sucking my thumb, what do you actually think? Do you think it's normal? No, actually, when you look at, you're like, what would you say to someone? You'd say, grow up, right? You'd actually say, grow up. Right? And we say this all the time to people because one thing that we know is we are required to change. Change is a part of life. It is inevitable and it is absolutely necessary. If you keep sucking your thumb and you're 20, 30, 40, 50, there's a problem, right? And you're going to suffer from it. Imagine a teenager. Teenagers, you know, what do teenagers go through, right? If you think about it, start commenting. What are teenagers like that... Some of you might be teenagers still though, right? But some of you, when you were a teenager, you'd like, oh, I would totally not do that again, right? There's no way. And if you saw people who act like a teenager and they're in their 30s or 20s, 30s, and 40s, you'd still look at them and you'd say, grow up, right? The one thing you have to understand is the necessity of change is it has to happen. As you age, as you grow, as you mature, if you don't change, you begin to suffer more. If you don't change, what happens is even people around you will look at that and say, that's really strange, right? Change is necessary and change is inevitable, okay? So, if you look at your life right now, and a lot of times we're going through what you call growing pains. Like, growing pains is like, as you're growing, there's pains of growing up and becoming an adult, becoming responsible, not doing things like you did when you were in high school or a teenager. For instance, if you have a full-time job, you're in a corporation, you can't do the same things you did before, like procrastinating and leaving everything to the end, or sometimes not doing the project at all, right? And the interesting thing is, if you do it that way, you lose your job. You do it in school, you might fail, but you could do it over. After you finish school, there's no do-overs. If you're fired, and it's on your record. You can never use them as a recommendation, right? We have to understand that just as we have growing pains in life, we have to realize is sometimes when you're going through difficulty right now in your life, you feel aimless, you feel no direction, you feel like, oh, why is it so hard to live? It's probably because it's time for you to grow and it's time for you to change. You see? Now, here's where it gets very interesting. Okay, this is a very interesting thing I want to bring up. Where in the world do you find the most drastic and dramatic change? Like, think about this carefully. I want you guys to answer. Just start writing it up in your chat rooms. Where in the world? What places would you go to where you see dramatic and drastic change from people? Think about that carefully. Huh. Where is it? Let's see what people are writing down. Is there another place where people can write stuff down or no? Okay. So write down, what do you think? Where do you find people changing and dramatically, which means a lot of change, and drastically, meaning quickly? Where would you find that happening in the world? Where you would meet someone and you'd say, wow, you've changed. Wow, what happened in your life? What do you think it is? What kind of answers do we have? What do you guys think? What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Well, interestingly enough, where does change happen most drastically and most dramatically? And as weird as this may sound, but religion. Religion is where change is very drastic and very dramatic. Like, sometimes you meet those people that used to be like so hardcore and they would go around beating people up, and then all of a sudden they have this testimony like, oh, I believe in God, so I don't beat people up anymore. I don't do that. I don't deal drugs anymore. And it's very interesting because we're like, wait a second. If you really think about it, where the most drastic and dramatic change is, it's usually from religion. So what I want to do today is I want you to really think about this. Is like we're going to learn how through religion you can change more drastically and more dramatically. Okay, and this is something that's very important. And because myself, I am a Christian, right? I'm also I did missions work. I'm a pastor too, right? I'm going to show you just through some parts. You'll see that through the scriptures, you can see how religion is able to make people change dramatically and drastically, okay? So, you guys ready? We're going to talk about change, okay? And what are the lessons learned from change? So, number one, what happens, what kind of change is, number one is perception change. It's about perception, right? Correct your perception of time and change, okay? So, what the heck does that mean? Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of why religion is always about change. Whenever you go to a religion, even when it came to Christianity, when Jesus came, what's he bringing about? He's bringing about change. He wants people to change the way they live, change the way they think. Okay, now in order for you to change properly, one thing that has to change first is up here, right? Is perception has to change. Your perception of time and change. So what does that mean? So Jesus came to bring heaven on earth, or he came to bring something, an ideal world. And let me show you something of what people were thinking, and this is kind of what people are thinking today too about change. So the first verse I want to take a look at is Luke chapter 19, verse 11. Okay? And this is a very interesting verse. Luke chapter 19, verse 11. Okay? And in Luke chapter 19, verse 11, it comes up here, right? And it says that, wow, I can barely read this, right? While they're listening to this, he went on to tell them a parable. I know this, but this really small writing. Because, okay, key point there is, the people thought that the kingdom of God would, what does it say? Happen at once. Right? It said the kingdom of God will happen at once. This is an interesting thing. Now, the reason why this is very important is because the people's thoughts is that change has to happen like instantaneously and right away, okay? You have to change right away. And this is one of the wrong thoughts that we have to have that has to change first. And what happens when Jesus came, he comes to first change the thought of time and change. People in their minds, what are we always thinking? We're thinking fast food. We're thinking internet at blazing speeds. We get upset when people don't text back after 5 minutes. We get upset over the smallest things when it comes with time, right? We're like, come on, why aren't you calling me? And we sit there, and it's really crazy. Because you know that when it comes to food, fast food, is it good for you or bad for you? It's actually unhealthy. You want slow cooked, or maybe not organic, but really good food with good ingredients, and it takes time. And that's for some reason why we love our mom's home cooking, right? But if you think about this, when we go to a restaurant and it takes more than 20 minutes, we're mad. We're like, where's the food? What kind of restaurant is this? Right? If it's taking a long time, it probably means your food is actually better. Right? It probably is going to mean it's much better. we have to realize one thing is in our hearts and our minds, one of the problems that people have is the problem that we expect everything to happen instantly. And that's the first thing that has to change. And the first thing that Jesus taught was changing the way that you think about time and change. How do I know? If you look at the next verse, what Jesus explained what the kingdom of God was like, everyone's expecting instant change. But in Matthew chapter 13, verse 31 and 32, Jesus actually talks about making the kingdom of heaven on earth, comparing it to a mustard seed. And he says, a mustard seed, it's so small, but if you take care of it, if you water it every day, if you fertilize it, give it lots of sun, if you do all these things, eventually this tree grows into a great tree where even the birds come and live in, right? The first concept we have to realize right now is the reason why it's so difficult for us to change is because we expect change to be so quick. So when you think it's supposed to be so quick, the biggest one of the resistance to change is what? Is that because you expect it to be so quick, when it's not quick, you give up and you say, no, it's not working. This is not working. I can't. This is totally a bad idea. The first thing you have to understand for yourselves is, in order for you to change, and the reason you resist it is because your perception of change with time is wrong. What do you have to do? You have to change your perception that time, right? Things take time, and it takes a lot of effort inside of it, right? And that's the first lesson I want you to learn is time, right? Your perception of time and change. If you begin to understand this carefully, you know what's going to happen? What happens is it calms you. It gives you more patience, and it helps you to realize, yes, you're right, it does take time. So if I take a look at you guys right now, this is very interesting. The thing that takes time is this. Once you realize that it takes time, the thing that happens is you won't give up, and you will enjoy the process as it goes. The moment you start thinking about time, like, why is it taking so long? Why is it taking so long? It's the same as you starting to exercise and every day checking in the mirror, first day, second day, and you see nothing happen. And then you say, well, this is dumb. Why am I exercising? There's no point in me exercising. I did it for 2 days and there's no change. All I feel is a sore body, right? What we have to realize is change, and if it's real and if it's good, it takes time. Right? That's the first thing you need to change. Now, the second lesson we can learn from the Bible, and the second lesson we can learn about from Jesus about change, is you need real reasons to change. It's got to be clear, right? This is the second point. You need clear reasons for change. Because one of the problems that people have is you kind of just say, I need change. I got to change something. But you have to be very clear about why you want to change. Why is it affecting you in a bad way, and why is it affecting other people, or what can be better if I changed? If you reason with yourself and have a clear vision and a reason for change, this is when people truly start to get motivated and have desire. So I'll give you an example. Let's take a look at Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 10 and 11. And here it is in the Bible. It gives you reasoning why the place where you're at is not enough. Okay? It's really interesting because what does he say? He says, this is King Solomon, one of the richest kings ever, and listen to what he says. He says, I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. So he's so rich, he can get anything he wants. He had relationships with more, he had like 1,000 women, right? He had all the money. If he was living today, he'd have all the cars, right? He had a huge house. He says, my heart took light. I refused my heart no pleasure, and my heart took delight in all my labor, and this was the reward for all my toil. Now here's where it gets interesting. Yet, when I surveyed all that my hands had done and what I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless. A chasing after the wind, nothing was gained under the sun. Right? What's happening here is, it is a clear reason why the things that are where you are right now is not good, right? It's very clear, right? That everything you grasp for is going to lead to the same place, and you're still not going to have any happiness. You're not going to have any meaning, right? There's no point of it. Why? Because I already went through it. You might not even be that rich, but I was so rich, had everything. I denied nothing to myself, and yet I'm still at this point where it's meaningless. It means nothing. He says, what is this clear reason? It's about you. In your position, why are you miserable? Right? And in religion, in the Bible, it tells you clearly this, and this is just one of the reasons. It's a clear reason why you're in the place you are right now. You need to know clearly in your mind that the position you're in is not good. It'll make you unhappy. Now, the second thing is very interesting, right? Because here's another real reason of something that you want to go towards, right? The first reason we looked at is look at my position now and why it's going to make me unhappy. But the second thing that the Bible does, it tells you what to look forward to. It is a motivation to go towards somewhere. It is a clear reason to change, right? Reasons, you need two reasons to change. One is looking at your current position and why it's not good. That makes you want to get away from this situation. But you also have to see a clear position in the future of where you want to be. Let's turn to John chapter 14, verse 27, okay? And this is what Jesus says this is what you're looking forward to. It says, peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid. And one of the things that is promised, or the future vision, a very clear vision that Jesus gives, is peace. Peace not as in the Middle East where wars are happening, right? Peace as in Afghanistan, or peace as in, we're talking about people's that sense of peace, the peace of mind that we really truly need in our hearts. That when we see people with this sense of peace, even though there's so much chaos going around, they still have peace inside their hearts. A clear reason to look forward to, a hope, a vision where you say, I want that. I don't want my heart to be weighed down. I don't want this trouble in my heart. I don't want to fear anymore. I don't want to be afraid. And that is a clear vision or a clear reason you have to run towards, right? One of the reasons why change is very difficult and why we resist is because we always fail at change, right? We try to change, but we always miss it in the middle. And one of the reasons you have to look at is what? One of the reasons is you have to understand is what? You have to have a clear reason and understanding of yourself and why it's wrong, who you're hurting, why it's hurting you. And secondly, you have to have a clear vision of where you're going towards. And if you don't have this, you have no motivation, right? Haven't you ever just heard someone just say to you this? I need to change. I really need to change. And honestly, it's probably true. It's probably true, right? That you need to change. But the issue is they don't know why. They don't have a clear reason or a vision of where they're going towards or why, what they're doing that's hurting other people. And this is why something you have to really understand this well is you have to be people that have clear reasons for change. Now, the last thing I want to teach you today, because, I'm only want to do 30 minutes because this is online, and I know that people are very, in this day and age, attention span is really low, right? It's really, really low. I know. They say that Generation Z, which is born from like 1995 to 2010, their attention span is something like 9 seconds. Millennials is 12. So millennials, you're a little bit better. So every 12 seconds, I should be shifting and changing the topic and saying something different. Why? Just to keep you interested. But I'm going to keep this short, so don't worry about it, right? So here it is. The last thing that really matters for us to change, and what the Bible teaches to make people change very drastically and dramatically, is consistency and perseverance. Right? You have to understand that perseverance leads to consistency. When someone says be consistent, the hard part is it's hard to be consistent. Right? Like when someone says be consistent, right? And you're like, oh, okay, I really want to be consistent, but then you always drop off somewhere in the middle. I'm going to show you this verse in James chapter 1, verse 12. Very, very interesting verse. And this is what the Bible teaches for people to understand about consistency. It says, blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, which means under difficult times, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him, right? One of the things that it teaches us is, in order for us to make great change, one of the biggest things is perseverance that leads to consistency. And this is one of the biggest issues why people are not healthy. They're not healthy because they'll work out for 9 hours and then they'll rest for 3 months. When you should be, when it's far better to work out for 20 minutes every day and you'll be far more healthier. Consistency is the answer that we have. However, consistency is difficult because people don't realize that it's going to be difficult. The reason it's called perseverance, the reason it's called consistency means that continuously doing it no matter what the circumstance, regardless of what's happening. It's kind of like, like marriage. To have a good marriage is not about you doing really well on Valentine's Day. That's not marriage. It's about, you know what? I have such a great marriage because every Valentine's Day and on my birthday, it takes me out, and it's like I feel so much love on those 2 days of the 365 days in a year. I feel loved 2 days of the year, right? No, it's far better that you do smaller things on a consistent level, right? You have to understand, one of the things that the Bible teaches that helps people to change dramatically and drastically is teaching people about consistency and perseverance, right? You have to realize what? You have to learn consistency, which means that you have to come with the understanding that everything you do, not just trying to change, but everything in life requires consistency, everything. I know some people I talk to here, while I'm in different countries, I talk to them. Some people are just great at dancing. Some people are great at sports. Some people are great at teaching. Some people, they're really good in different parts and different things, right? But if you think about it, if I were to tell you right now, if some of you, I'm sure some of you are dancers out there, right? Because there are a lot of people there. Some of you are dancers, and the interesting thing is this. If I asked you on the first day of dance, how good were you at dance? And you'd say, I was terrible. How flexible were you? Probably not very flexible, right? How many moves could you do? Probably not that many, right? But the interesting thing is, why are you good now? Because of consistency and constantly practicing over and over and over again, even when you didn't want to, even when it was hard, even when it was like, why is it like this? And that's why you became good at what you did. Consistency and perseverance is something that we have to realize in our hearts and our minds for real change to actually happen. Now, these three things I told you today. Number one is what? You have to understand the perception, right? Perception of time and change. The second thing I told you was you have to have a clear reason, right? Clear reasons for change. And the third one I talked about right now is consistency or perseverance that leads to consistency. Okay? I think this is the wrong thing you put up. Yeah. Understanding that perseverance leads to consistency, okay? Now, with these three things, what does it lead towards? And this is the most important part. This is the part that matters in order for you to change. And it's something you wonder to yourself like, is this? So what does that all lead to? It leads to the most important part is desire. It's desire to change. All these things are leading to desire. Now, here's the thing. When you think of desire, you think, I desire, I want something. But no, desire is actually very, very different, right? Desire is in your prefrontal cortex. When you want desire, there's this place in your brain that when it hits desire, you will do anything to get that. That's desire, like genuine desire to really want to change, right? Like, for instance, when do people, like when people get married, when do they have a genuine desire to change? Is when their wife tells them, I want a divorce. No, I'll change. I swear, I can be better. I'll be a better man. They had the desire, right? When they had the desire, they'll do anything that they can, right? When you finally hurt your mom so badly with these words, you're like, I got to change. Mom, I swear, I'm so sorry. I'm going to change, right? We do it to our friends. We do it to our family. We do it to the people we love. But only when you finally have that part of your brain that hits desire, you're like, okay, I'm going to change, and you're so conscious about it. How do you get to that point without going to that extreme of your wife asking you for a divorce? Right? Because that's super extreme, right? It's these three different things that we learned today leads to a desire to change. Like one of the, here's the interesting thing. Your brain, when you fall in love, guess what part of the brain is triggered? It is your desire. The desire portion of your brain. And that's why when people fall in love, what do they do for me, when I was had a crush on a girl in high school, gosh, I would do anything for them. It was so weird. I'm a rugby player, captain of the basketball team. I was like, yeah, I'm a jock and everything else, right? But then when this girl I really liked was like, hey, can you walk to the store and get me something because I'm really thirsty? I'm like, okay, anything for you. Okay. And all my friends are like, what the heck is going on, right? And it's so weird because I use this example all the time is when you're super in love, like your desire to please this person is unbelievable. That desire part of your brain is like, you talk to your friends, hey, what's up, man? Yeah, I'm gonna go beat someone up right now. And then that girl calls and you're like, hello? Hey, how's it going? Yeah, oh yeah, I'm having a good time. What about you? And your friends are like, what the heck is going on, right? So what I want to do is, you have to think about this. You have to think about this. That part of your brain is so important, but you need to get to that point where you want something so badly, right? Because everyone gets to a point in, why is it so hard to change, is you do nothing to get to the point of desire. But you have to realize, in life, everything takes effort. Honestly, for you to honest, I know for some of you right now, it's even effort to turn on your phone and listen to this online broadcast. Some of you are like, oh gosh, like why so many buttons? Why? Yeah, because they say that, people will give up if it's more than 3 clicks. You know what I mean? It's like going, so what do I do? You have to click this. Like, click, okay, so sign your name. Okay, cool. What do I do next? Click the button. Okay, now I want you to put in your more information. Okay, you put in your information. It's like, do another click. No, forget this. I give up. This is dumb. What happens is everything takes effort. It just takes effort. And the thing we have to understand is you have to give, like I said, those 3 things. One of the most important ones is you have to give yourself clear enough reasons why you need to change. You do. Because if I reason with myself and I say, if I continue to do this, my wife will divorce me. And I don't want that. If I continue to do this, my parents, what would they think? What would happen? My friends. You have to start reasoning and give yourself a clear, objective goals and honestly where you're at right now, reason with yourself and you have to move forward. And if you don't, what happens is you will remain in suffering, you'll remain in why is life like this, and you'll wonder to yourself, how can I get out of this? The answer is change is necessary and change is absolutely vital in order for you to live properly. Okay? I hope that everyone understood what I talked about today. How many minutes did I go? Did anyone catch that? Oh, Elsie, what platform she's coming in? This is perfect, right? The perfect example, right? Exercise example, she said, is super legit. She's just trying to do 1-minute planks every day, 1 minute of push-ups every day, and in 2 weeks, she can feel a difference, right? But not right away, right? So, it's perfect. It's a perfect example from Elsie, right? So what I want you guys to do is, think about those examples in your life also, and I hope that what you learned today was beneficial, and that we can continue to do more of these bread talks.